Rightio, so for task C, or activity 3 part C, we need to create a report inside of Access. Now, in this report, you're going to have to detail several key features. In this case, it needs to be grouped by year, and it shows each of the yearly reviews for the beaches that have at least 150 kg of rubbish collected, and a cleanliness rating of 2 or 3. It needs to display the beach name, district name, and review details. Also needs to calculate and display the total weight of rubbish and the total number of cleanups. Now to do this, we're going to have to create a query first off. So go to the create and query design, and we'll probably include all these just to simplify things for now. Right, so the first thing we need is we need a mixture of two things here. A mixture of calculations and a mixture of fields. So for now, we're going to include the beach name. District name, the review details, now I imagine by review details they are referring to probably the beach, sorry, the number of cleans, rubbish collected, and cleanliness rating most likely. I don't say that out front, but I'm going to guess that's what it is. So we'll put the review year there. We'll put the what's the other one? Number of cleans. The rubbish collected and the cleanliness rating. So that's all of the main details. We've got the beach name, beach name, district name, review details, and everything else seems to be pretty simple there, so we can work with that for now. Now we need to do some minor estimations here. So they must have at least 150 kg rubbish collected and must have a cleanliness rating of 2 or 3. So what we can do here is cleanliness rating. We can go to totals. In fact, do we need totals? Yes, for safety, but we might not actually need them. Right, so go criteria. So we want to go cleanliness rating of 2 or 3. So what we can do there, so that is yearly review, cleanliness rating equal to 2 or equal to 3. That should be fine for that one. And at least 1 kg, 150 kg of rubbish collected. So go back to rubbish collected and greater than or equal to 150 kilo. Right, so when we run that, we should find we've only got ones that are 2 or 3, and we've got rubbish collected there. So that's our basic query right there. That will show the beach name, district name, review year, the number of cleans, rubbish collected, and cleanliness. So that creates a query that can meet the requirements of 150 kg, cleanliness rating of 2 or 3, contains the district name, the beach name, and the review details. So that should contain everything we need. Now, what we're going to need is to calculate total weight of rubbish and total number of cleanups. Now, we could do a separate query for this, but it can probably be easier to do it inside the report. So what we're going to do is we're going to save this query by going Control S. We're going to save this query by going Control S, and we're going to call it report query. Now, again, you might want to call it something more appropriate, such as number of rubbish collected, report, query, etc. Let's use report query now because it's simpler to display. Right, now that we've managed to get our query up and running, the report query here, which contains all the information we need for our report, we can now start making the report. Now, as you can see, we need to create a report that is grouped by year and shows each of the yearly reviews for beaches that contain at least 150 kg of rubbish collected, a cleanliness rating of 2 or 3, and contains the beach name, district name, review details, etc. So, there's 3 main points to this. There's these specific parts here, which are pretty much covered by a query anyway. And there's this part here, which is the report itself. And this bit here is calculations that we add into the report. Now, what we do to make a report is quite simple. Although be aware, making reports can be somewhat challenging. Now, what we do is go to Create tab here, and you click on the report wizard. Now, you can use report design. I would argue against using it, simply because of the fact you'll have to add everything in manually, and reports are tricky enough without adding in extra complexity. So hit the report wizard. Now, it will automatically find queries and tables that you can get data from. With all reports, you really want to have a query at the back that just basically populates all the data you're going to need for that report. And we've got that here. It's called a report query. So we're going to click that one. Probably can't select it anyway. And we'll include all the fields from it because we need them all. And click Next. Now, the next part here is our way of grouping that data. Now, in this situation, we've got 3 main options. It's grouping by beaches, yearly review, or district. Now, in reality, we need to group this via yearly review because that's what we've been asked to do. So we're going to click by yearly review. Realistically, you could group it by district or by beaches because this links back to our original tables. But I'm going to use yearly review to keep it simple. So click Next, and we're now allowed to add a grouping level. Now, we want to have our grouping levels on the things that control or what height things go in. Now, in this case, that would be the review year, because that's the overall thing that we're grouping by. So group by year. Everything else has been basically left to our own devices, so we'll leave it as it stands for now and click Next. We can also sort the records. Now, I would suggest perhaps sorting it by the amount of rubbish collected, but you don't really need to do this, it's just an option of doing this. And we click Accept. Click again, doesn't make much difference what we click here. Now we'll give our report a name. I'll call it Yearly Review 2 because I've got a few test ones there, so I'll call mine 2. You'll be able to call your one Yearly Review. And when it says preview the report, we want to modify the report design because we don't want to see what it looks like just yet. And that'll open up our yearly review. Now I want to go full screen for this, and you'll see why when I get there. Now, there are a few things that you need to know about the design view because it is incredibly intimidating when you first get here. If you look underneath each section and you select them, you should be able to, or above them in some cases, you should be able to drag down much of the white space so you can get more space to work in. So if you go down from below, it'll take it from the bottom part and top from the top part. It's not easy, it's a bit of a pain, but once you've fiddled around with it for a little bit, you should be able to get a relatively nice bit of working space there. Now, if you've got something such as the review year header, that's something that repeats once per record. So if you've got a record that's 2018, 2019, each section of that will be displayed in each section. It will make sense once I show you it. The detail is all the records, details in our line, and you only need one text value for each one. The page footer, again, it only goes once, and that is going to be the bit where it just says at the end, this happens. The report header is exactly, the footer are pretty much the same thing as well, but that might be over many pages sometimes, so it's generally dependent on what you're doing. But essentially the page header is what is shown at the bottom of the top of each page. The report header and footer is what's shown at the end of each report, which could be many pages, it could be one. So things like titles and that is where they would go. None of that's really that useful for us right now. What we're interested in is the review year header. If you click on this and right click, you'll come up with a mode of options, and you want to click on sorting and grouping. Now watch closely. You'll notice that it says here at the bottom, group on review year with A on top and more. Hit more. And it will give you a lot of different options. You want to go along until you see where it says without a footer section. Click on the arrow and open it. This will open the the review year footer. This will be where you can do your totals, because it will allow you to repeat this for each block of data. So for each year there will be a footer where you can have everything at the end of that block of data, and the header at the beginning of that block of data. I don't expect it to make sense until we see the report, but just keep that in mind. Now everything here is controlled by labels and text boxes, which are linked to different things. Because we've linked to our query, we can access these text boxes to do different things, but for now all we want to do is make sure we can see them. So where we've got review year here, I'm going to select all of these by holding Control or Shift and then just dragging these down to here, because I want to see these at the top of every bit of data I have. And I also want to see the review year as well. So what I can do here is remove this label or change this label, because I don't really need it in line with the rest of them. So we can move this one here, move that out of the way over here, and do the same here. So we can now have this as year, and we can leave this as review year. That will automatically sort itself out. Now these here are all linked to the little friends down here, and what we're going to do, make sure that these are all in line with the bits below. So we've got rubbish collected, beach name, beach clean. They've probably gone out of order when we've put them down, so let's reorder them a little bit to make sure they're all the same. So we want to have beach name first at the end here. We want to have district name following on from that. Might be a bit big, so we'll shrink district name a little bit, and we'll shrink beach name a little bit. Now this is a little bit fiddly, this bit. You're going to just basically move these things around until they fit in the right place. Got rubbish collected here. We'll expand that a little bit. Don't have the labels just yet, we'll get back to these in a second. We've got a number of cleans. Doesn't need to be that large, so we won't make it too big, we'll just have a little bit of space there. And we'll then have our last one, which should be our cleanliness rating. Does need to be full size because it's only a number, don't forget. Now these labels, they probably have D associated from the stuff below, but that shouldn't change the effect they have. So what you can do is just line them up straight above here, and that's it really. Make sure they're roughly in line with the ones below, so there's not going to be any sort of issue with them being out of sync. They might be a little bit out of sync, but that's something you can play around with so you get a nice setup. Just in case of what you're happy with. We'll pull this last one across as well. And there we go. So now as you can see, I might make the labels a little bigger so we can see what they say. They might be a bit small otherwise. Might spend a few minutes on this bit just to make sure the stuff looks okay. That's quite normal. I'm not going to spend too long on it here because that's something you can do yourselves. And so now we have a year label with a review year, beach name, label, beach name, text, and the same all the way across, roughly in line with each other. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add something called a text box just quickly, which is this one here. And we're going to place it here. And we're going to leave it unbound for now and do another one here as well, exactly the same. That's how you add a text box. We'll set these up in a minute, but make sure you do them now. Then we'll click at the top here on the review, on the views tab, and it should give us an idea of what our thing looks like for now. As you can see, we've got a year, 2018. It's grouped by the beach name, district name. They look a bit wonky, that's probably because we haven't aligned them perfectly, but overall, that's not done a bad job. So you can fiddle around with it till it looks quite nice since you're happy with the look of it. We're not going to focus on making it look nice at the moment. You can get the data out there. You can spend some time making it look nice if you want to. Just make sure all the data is visible, like their number of cleans. Just make that label a little bit bigger, and that will help. You'll notice it's also sorted our things in order of numbers collected, because we've asked it to do that in part of the form as well, so that's also helpful. So you can now see this report's got all the basic stuff in it we need, apart from having the rubbish collection total and the number of cleans total. So what we can do is we can go back to our design view and do a little bit of a function on it. So in this case we can go to control source. So if you notice here, there'll be a symbol in the top corner of your ribbon called the property sheet. I'll get rid of that for now. If you have something like this is all blank. If you look at the top here on your ribbon, you'll see something called property sheet. Click that, and this will give you access to all the stuff, the important stuff of the objects you've got here. So click on the unbound bit here, text box 15. It's got something called control source. We'll go to the little three dots there, and we'll click on events, because that's the name of my access document. You might have called it something else. You know, it's not particularly important what it's called, it's just the fact it's your access database. And you want to scroll to queries, double click here, and it will give you the query from before. This is the total query from the reports the query report we've used for this particular report. So I'm going to type in equals sum and some brackets, and inside those brackets I'm just going to double click rubbish collected and click OK, and that's it. In the text box here, which is associated with it, I'm going to call it total rubbish. You might call it something like total rubbish collected or something. Again, use a decent name for it. I'm just going to do something quick and easy to show you how it all works. We're going to go into queries again, report query. This time what number of cleans, so we do equals sum, double click number of cleans, and then we just do bracket again. Click OK, boom, all done. And this one, we're going to label 18, we're going to just double change that, and we're going to make that total cleans. Now we go out of the report, hit the view button, there we go. So now you can see we've got our yearly review too. You want to change the title of that, I'll show you how to do it in a second. It's got the year 2018, year 2019, so it's grouped by year. We have a beach, Bastion and Sidewind in Crimbus and North End. Both with the rubbish collected, number of cleans and cleanliness rating, total rubbish and total cleans. And we also have exactly the same below with the next one. Now if we check the requirement of this, we can just check we've got everything we need. So we create a report that's grouped by year, which we've got, and it shows each yearly reviews of beaches that contain 150 kg rubbish collected. We've done that in our query, so we know it's correct. And a cleanliness rating of 2 or 3, again correct. We displayed the beach name, the district name, and review details, so number of cleans, cleanliness rating, rubbish collected, etc. We've calculated and displayed the total weight of rubbish and the total number of cleanups per year. Now we could group this and do it over the entire course of all years, or do it by year. I suggest we do the grouping by year, as it says group by year, and so the total weight and number of cleanups should be done by year. In this report, all we care about is it's grouped by year, we have the total numbers here, and that's all we need to get the report working. And as you can see, it must fit on one page. That seems to be what that one's doing. It only seems to be on page 101. We can do a print preview if we're not sure, and there we go, all on one page. So we've met our requirement fully. Close print preview, back to there. So we've done all these tasks now, and we need to evidence things as screen prints. So you should go to design view first, open it fully, screen print. We go to design view of any queries you've used, so report query in this case, design view, open it up fully, screen print. Might want to spread these out a bit, but that's not a major problem. And then go to the dataset view of any queries and screen print again. So we go back to the view and we screen print, and that's it. Then we save it as a query, and so we save the query and report in a PDF in your folder for submission, or in the case of a mock online, just upload your access file at this point. And you save your database report at the end of this part of the exam as well. But as I said, for the mocks, just chuck them online, and that's it. Right, and that is part C of the question 3, and that's how you get the report doing. Your report should look like this once it's done, and as long as you've got this here, you're fine. To change the title, as I said I was going to show people, it's just a case of going up here, clicking on there, and typing in yearly reports, or whatever you want to call it. Hit that, boom, done. You can change things around, move them around as you like, but as long as it looks like that, it's got that data on it, and it's grouped by year, importantly, that's what you want. If you don't use the headers correctly and the footers correctly, it will chuck it all in one big block and it will look horrible. So make sure you use the header and footers the way I described in the part earlier, and that should allow you to break it up nice and easily. The important thing to remember when you're using the header and footers is, if you've got something that repeats, it will normally be in the review year header and footer, which you can add by changing your groupings. If you want something that's once per page, it's in the page header and page footer. Once per report, it's in the report header and report footer. And if it's actually record information, so your text boxes, it will normally go in the detail section, because that's where things are broken down. And that's it really. So as long as you follow that guidance and use those groupings correctly, it should be fine. This might differ from other papers you might experience, but as long as you're following the logic of which bits repeat and which bits don't repeat, as I've already mentioned, you should be absolutely fine. If you're not certain, have a look at some other tutorials online, get a bit of an idea of how you can use the review years header and footers correctly. But as long as you follow this, you should be more than able to keep up the exam. Okay, right, so we'll move on to the next one in the next session.